It has also been a wild ride for stocks lately. We know that. President Trump commenting on the volatility just earlier today. Take a listen.
We had a little glitch in the stock market last month, but it's still up, I guess, around 30% from the time I got elected. And it's going to go up once we settle trade issues. And once a couple of other things happen, it's going to go up. It's got a long way to go.
It's got a long way to go, says the president. Here now to react, Veronica Dagher from the Wall Street Journal and Danielle DiMartino Booth, former Federal Reserve advisor and Fed Up author. Aren't we all, Danielle? We'll get to that in a minute. Veronica, let me begin with you. We just hear the president kind of dismissing December, saying, there's a little glitch. Once we get the trade talks and the trade issues sorted out, we've got a long way to go up. Your comments on what the president had to say.
Well, I'm glad he sees the trade issues as a big overhang because indeed it is. It's one of the biggest overhangs on this market right now. Investors are very worried about what's going to happen with China. How are things going to play out? But that's just one of their big worries. Another big worry is interest rates. How is this market adapting to higher interest rates, not to mention slowing global growth? So there's a mix of things bothering investors. And you know what? The one thing they can count on for the next couple months, at least until we get resolution with China, is more volatility. Exactly.
Let me bring you in, Danielle, very quickly on that issue. What are the markets telling us right now? And Veronica touched on that, a global slowdown, which seems to be very well entrenched, and especially in China. What does that do to our market here?
Well, yeah, you know, I was particularly surprised to see the stock market close up today because we've got a contracting factory sector in China for the first time in 19 months. That is a real bona fide headline. But there's something to be said for what the United States has that the rest of the world still lacks, at least for the next few days until the buyback window closes and goes into blackout. We've got share buybacks, and share buybacks we know are really pumping up the U.S. market, and that's been a major source of support and strength. Versus the rest of the world. You saw world stock markets overnight were just in terrible shape.
Right.
So there's something to be said for what we have going for us here for the next few days. But again, earnings season's coming. The buyback window's closing. I look for much more volatility going forward.
Maybe we're the least dirtiest shirt in the laundry, as they say. All right. Thank you, ladies. We'll be back with more.
Let's talk about China trade. And China trade talks are set to resume this week in Beijing. President Trump saying today that the negotiations are coming along very well, and we'll have to see what happens. Veronica, haven't we been saying this for a while?
For a while, right. And so we'll see what happens if we get a deal, if it's going to happen by March. If we do get a deal, what kind of deal is it going to be? And is it going to be enforceable? We've had these sort of discussions with China before. They've laid terms out. We've accepted, but things actually don't really come to pass. So what's going to happen is the big unknown, and what the time frame is. It's going to be interesting to see what the president's tolerance is, though. As he mentioned before, he's watching the stock market so closely. Does he have the tolerance to stick with a hard line with China if the stock market keeps falling? That's another big question.
In a mark-to-market administration, you want the stock market to go up. Danielle, but, you know, as we've talked about, you just mentioned it with Ashley, this has been probably one of the overhangs on the market. So don't you think expectations are set so low that if we get some sort of positive development, markets go up in the first quarter?
Well, I think that's certainly feasible, but, you know, the New York Times story that hit the wires this morning that featured Lighthizer talking very tough did give me pause and make me worry that we're actually going to see the increase in tariffs to 25% if he still has the president's ear. So we will have to wait and see. As you said, this is a mark-to-market administration, Susan. That's brilliant. I'm going to borrow that, by the way.
You can borrow.
And things can change by the day, but if the administration is going to be as hawkish as Lighthizer seemed to indicate in that story this morning, then we've got a long way to go between here and March 1st.